Welcome back to Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino. This week I'm joined by James and Miff as we once again cover all things Celtic. Miff, a long 2 weeks without Celtic, at least on the park. What's been your main takeaways from what was an eventful day at Rugby Park on Sunday?
Yes, it was. Hello Tino, hello James, hello listeners. I was glad just to support the team because there had been so much consternation between us all, and just generally a lot of negativity, which is never a good thing. But to see that, firstly, the protest took place, so a lot of the fans were as good as their word. But then also that when the fans did arrive, they backed the team very, very well, stayed with the team right to the end, and the team got themselves out of jail. So my take on it is that, you know, Celtic are back, as in they're back for us to support them. What's happened's happened. The players here are now locked into January, and I do think whilst we've accumulated points, we've been poor. The football we've played's been quite poor. So my hope is that this is actually the kind of low in the dip that we're in, and that now the players have got a bit of time together, managers get a bit of time with them, that a bit more cohesion is going to be seen there, and the fluidity's got to come back to the football. That's my hope. But the most important thing is there was a lot of new players involved in that victory. The manner of the victory might just be the wee rocket that gets strapped to them to push them on to see the football become a wee bit more free-flowing in the coming weeks.
Yeah, the feel-good of scoring such a late winner, it can feel to lift the players, James, and kick them on. Before we get into all that kind of stuff, though, we were down there, us and Stevie at the game, and what is your gauge in terms of the kind of general temperature among Celtic fans at this moment in time? The club had the gift of a 2-week international break, didn't take advantage of that. We released the statement, the article through the Sun, however that came to be, and various bits and bobs. So it's been a fraught 2 weeks for fans, but there's no doubt that winning games of football can help reduce the tension. A draw or a loss there would have heightened everything, but the opposite applies.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to kind of compartmentalise it and say that's the football and that's the off-field stuff that you...
Easier said than done, though. Because we're all football fans. We all want to see Celtic win.
All I would say is that, you know, what a way to win. You know, I said in the post-match last night that you couldn't have scripted it any better if you're putting a protest together. You come in on the 12th minute, you give the players your whole backing, and the players really felt it right up to the end, coming off the pitch with that 2-1 win. And then the second that was done, it was sack the board. So there's continuity of message there. So I think you can compartmentalise. Where I would say it's easier to be angry if you drop points there.
Yeah.
And that probably turns up the heat. I don't necessarily want or need that, but what I don't want is the heat to dissipate on a win. I think you've got to maintain that consistency, that you've got an overarching goal, which is, you know, change at the top at Celtic off the field. So I think you've just got to kind of compartmentalise it too.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it in a fair bit of detail just a wee bit later on in the piece. Smith, as I said there, James and I were at the game. You weren't there, but there was some representatives of the Miff family.
My oldest boy went down the bus. So that was his first away game going. I say going by himself, but it was with a few of his friends on the bus and things like that as well. So he had an absolute ball, and he videoed the winner and then sent it up to me. So needless to say, he had an absolute ball. And what better way, you know yourselves, if last minute winner. Not much better than that.
Yeah, good buzz for Jacob. First away game, big moment for him. 29 years of age, James. So
That's one of the traps.
Nah, just a young man. 14, I think Jacob is. So big moment for him. James, a lot of folk are rightly excited about Sebastian Tounekti and what he brought to the party. Great to see. We'll obviously get into that and, you know, chat through his big moments in the game. But the big frustration, of course, is why wasn't he in the building earlier? There doesn't seem to be any great reason why a guy from Hammarby, who you can pay the $5 million for, wouldn't have been through the doors before your qualifier, and that is a frustration, eh?
Iheanacho as well, you know, take the two together. You've got a proper striker there that could have done your turn. But yeah, it was deadly yesterday. You know, some kind person's put his show reel together from yesterday, and it's just sublime. It's great to watch. See, even the guys coming out with the ball, Scales in particular, being on the left-hand side, you don't need to be so ponderous. Just, he's shown all the time. Just give it to him, and he'll take it, you know. So that on its own should speed us up in terms of this, like, turgid football that's been going on I think that we will come out of that dip as you're mentioning, but Tounekti be a big part of that. So as for the signing stuff, I'm a wee bit what's done is done, and the changes that we were asking for should impact on that kind of thing being a thing in the past. So let it happen.
It's got to be. It's a very easy lesson for the board to learn. If the board were at the game yesterday, they watched this guy, he lights it up, and surely they, amongst everyone else, must know that you've got more chance of qualifying through European Champions League with guys like him in your team.
We've danced this dance so many times though, Tino, and that is that's why we're asking for the changes. But we've gambled with near beat on at centre half and all these things in many qualifiers in the past. Sometimes we've got away with it, but more often than not we haven't. We as a club still don't have the processes and procedures in place in our recruitment department to stop that from happening, and that comes down to release of an appropriate enough budget to do it before you know what tournament you've qualified for. So that's a starting point for us all, I think. But any team, you'd argue even any business, you need to refresh your staff. You need putting fresh blood in there helps everybody. The captain himself came in an interview and asked for the help. The squad was asking for the help. He's the spokesperson for that. So it's really baffling that we gambled the way that we did. It's been the catalyst for a movement now amongst many groups of fans all coming together and asking for a change. But if you're getting into the specifics of it, that's why. It's a very clear example as to why we were asking for action from the recruitment team, from the board, from whoever, to go and get players in, because you see the direct effect it then has on performance on the pitch. It just creates a fresh dynamism. So what I would say is the pitch yesterday was difficult. For him to shine the way that he did bodes very well. You can think of us being able to get the ball back out to him repeatedly at home and
Grass Park, yeah.
Just continually running at the full back. And again, I thought when we made the changes yesterday, it was actually nice bringing a bit of strength off the bench, and I thought we got the goal. We missed some really big chances, and then listen, Kelly get their goal and push after that. But even like bringing Forrest and Tierney on, I thought I quite liked the way we looked. Second half of the game got a wee bit more stretched. I just think there's what's happened obviously scarred us all, but what you can see there is you can see the impact that bringing in fresh players has on the rest of the squad as well. So for me, what better lesson, what more apparent lesson can the board learn than what we're seeing right in front of us?
It's a perfect example, but also it's not like we're asking for the earth. It's one £5 million winger, very affordable in Celtic's budget. He won't be getting paid, ridiculous money either.
10, 12, something.
So you would think that that's something that could and should have been done better. Obviously, myself and James, we done the post-match, waxed lyrical about his performance. Everyone, who's seen it will be doing the same. What was your thoughts on his performance? And just as a quick aside, what about his yellow card?
Ridiculous.
Wild, eh?
So I've not seen a playback. We were obviously watching it.
It's just a brilliant tackle.
Clean on it.
Brilliant tackle.
And Beaton sees it as clean. Then the Kilmarnock fans go up in arms, and he not only gives the foul, but he books him.
I don't think he was going to give the foul initially.
No, he wasn't.
And he certainly wasn't going to give the booking, but it's a strange thing. But he stepped up, did John, later on in the game.
Brother Beaton.
To do his
All
thing.
forgiven.
So listen, all the headlines are about Tounekti, and I think we're all excited to see more of him in the weeks ahead. But there's also, as you said, Miff, quite a bit of change, quite a bit of freshness about the team, to be honest with you. Marcello Sirachi making his first start at left back in place of KT. Balaquisha, so far so very average at the moment, playing out on the, let me get my details right hand side, which he's not comfortable at. And obviously Special K, Big Kel, Iheanacho coming on at the end doing his thing. And you've got young Colby Donovan, 19 last Sunday. So young man. And he can be proud of his performance as well, can't he?
Yeah, big lad, athletic, very willing to get up and down. I think he had quite a nervy start. Ball ran away from him a few times. But he was driving forward second half, and the goal comes from him being in the box, taking on the full back and driving the ball across in injury time. So that bodes really well. Something we've been crying out for is players to get the chance in positions where we're maybe a bit light. Let's use the B team or the academy. And he has shown a tantalising glimpse of what could become, especially the scope that he's got to be so young, but to be that size. If you see him kind of bulking up and adding to that running power, I think we've got a real asset in our hands here.
Yeah, and you talk about that power. He's played that part right at the death where he's basically bulldozed through a tackle. 93rd minute, 92nd, 93rd minute at the time, bulldozes through, gets the byline, cuts it back, ricochet through Forrest, and that's a penalty.
Deadly finish for Jamesy, come on.
That's correct. It was flying into the back of the net. James, I mentioned Sarachi. I'm a wee bit surprised to see him start, but maybe protecting KT in the plastic pitch. And Balakwisha, we were talking just earlier there about Balakwisha. Someone described him to me earlier on as a panic signing. I don't think it's a panic signing because we've scouted him for such a long time. But at the moment, early days I know, but at the moment it's hard to see exactly why we've tracked him for so long.
I think it shows the lack of cohesion in the recruitment department that we're obviously pursuing Tounekti. I don't know if they thought they weren't going to get him, but we've been tracking Balakwisha. We tried to sign him last summer or last season, and he got an injury, so they've been tracking him since then. But they must know that both of those guys are not predominantly, almost exclusively left wingers. So maybe a wee bit of it was Dyson cover. Dyson's going to go, you get Balakwisha on the bench, you get Tounekti starting. Yeah. That's the only way it makes sense for me. Mm-hmm. But to sign him and not sign a right winger and just say, you can go off out there. Some players can do that, right? And they can come inside and all that stuff. I don't think he can. So it's too hard to judge him. You need to give him space and time on his own wing to let him see what he's got.
That's fair.
Plus also Jota's still to come back as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be a mad old left-hand side when everyone's fit. And at the moment, the manager can't trust Yang on the right-hand side. Yang looks like he's gone, doesn't he? I thought he was...
No wonder the way they treated him, man.
Yeah, no just really poor when he came on. And then James Forrest came on and added a bit of balance. But James will be a guy who comes off the bench. We don't have a starting right winger at this moment. That's the problem.
But I would now go to the likes of Ben Summers, McArdle, whoever. I would change it up. Yeah. I would change it up and just try, because we need that balance. And what's became very apparent is the best use of James Forrest is for those last 20-25 minutes. Just go on, Jamesy, give us what you've got, go and drive at the defender, make those angles, retain the ball, do all those things, whether it's chasing a goal, whether it's keeping the ball or protecting a lead. You can do that, but let's get somebody else who can do the running for the first hour of the game. Yeah. And somebody like Ben Summers has been away in Austria playing, he's had first team experience. He was out at Dunfermline the year before that. Give him a run of games and see if he can do something, and if he can, you can move him on.
You get Partick Thistles at Friday night?
Sunday.
Same thing. And what better chance to let us see these guys? And even if you did want to start James there, I agree. I think James is better coming off the last 20 minutes. But even if you wanted to start James for 16, at least give these guys half an hour. But I'd rather see them start. Let's see what they've got.
I seen someone complaining about Celtic continuously using the left-hand side yesterday. I'm thinking, well, why would you not? Your biggest strength by a country mile is Tounekti, who's running the full-back ragged. Why would you stop doing that to just balance it out and go the right where you don't have the strength at this moment in time?
I thought there was a real genuine attempt for the team to play at a quicker tempo. I just thought Kelly defended really well initially, but you could see when we didn't create much in the first 15-20 minutes, you could see that going back to
safety,
just suffocating things in the old day.
The horseshoe lives on.
The horseshoe.
There is nothing about
that. And it kind of went back to that a bit. McGregor tried to snap back, put a beautiful ball through Tounekti, and he probably went with the wrong foot actually. But also, I think the reason they were going down one side was Balakwisha was offering absolutely nothing. If anything, it was Donovan that was actually trying to.
So Balakwisha marking his marker at one point.
Marking his marker.
His marker was like retreating towards goal, and Balakwisha's like, "I'm coming with you. See wherever you're going, I'm going with you."
I'll hang about with you.
It was an awkward game, and Kelly have done well so far this season. I think they've drawn all their games. So, for me, ultimately, the way that's ended, I'm just Iheanacho's the one for me where he just needed to hit the ground running, because I think if he gets confident, you'll see the swagger come back in him. And I'm just hoping that that's the wee thing that
Catalyst
really kicks him on.
Yeah, and he's certainly shown swagger and character and bravery by hitting the penalty, and he's no sclaffed it. I mean, that's a really
not safe
cool penalty, and he's really enjoyed it. He's a guy that, by all accounts, hasn't enjoyed his football in recent times. If there's ever a place to rediscover that spark, Celtic Park under Brendan Rodgers could be the place. If you talk about the horseshoe and some of the kind of turgid stuff, and I need to ask the question, have we got a midfield problem at this moment in time? Yesterday's midfield three, I don't think any of them is getting more than 5 or 6 out of 10. But Callum McGregor struggled. Rio Hatate was almost non-existent. and we both found Benjamin Negren just so frustrating on the day.
Oh, it's weak in the tackle, doesn't carry the ball, doesn't protect the ball, isn't fast. Not you always talk about the way a player addresses the ball. I didn't see clean addressing of the ball. There must be talent in there somewhere, but he needs time out of the team to just go and come on for like 10, 20, 30 minutes and just rejuvenate himself that way. It's just, I don't want to write the guy off because he must have something. I'm just clinging to that belief.
We've seen bits of the something. He's scored a couple of decent goals, and he's played his part in some of the early stuff.
I've not seen him score, even when he's scored goals and played games. I've not seen him score more than 6 out of 10 in any game he's played this season, and he's starting every time.
He got man of the match at Pittodrie, didn't he? When we won 2-0 and he scored up there.
I think sometimes that just falls in your goal, but I'm still not seeing anything above a 6. But you've got Bernardo and Engels on the bench there. I mean, we've seen Bernardo turn it on. We know Bernardo is a footballer. I'm just thinking that what are they doing in training, Engels included, that Negren's ahead of them? That just doesn't make any sense to me. And he's rotated.
It kind of feels like it's, like Negren's the shiny new signing. And it's almost
shiny
like,
penny.
well, we'll play him now. He's a new guy. We know what Engels can do. We know what Bernardo can do. But at the moment, based, and again, it's limited evidence, right? Same as Balikwisha. We're only asking the questions here just now, and all these guys should be given time. But based on what we know of the there's 6 midfielders playing for 3 positions. Negren at the moment is pretty lucky to be holding on to his position, isn't he?
Yes. He has been impactful, but to be fair to him, there's a few games he's been shunted out wide. He's clearly not a winger.
No. I wouldn't judge him on that.
But I felt he was very frustrating yesterday. Weak is an excellent description, James. That was my take on it. I don't know what it's doing for Engels' confidence, because he's barely featuring.
He did not come on yesterday. Negren getting 90 minutes.
Aye, but for me, the Bernardo thing frustrates me. But you just don't know what's went on. You can only assume that he's either not shown enough in training, or there's maybe something happened.
Thought he was getting his movement
over the summer. I genuinely don't know. But the game we played against Livingston, Bernardo kind of played and sat back. I thought he was actually really good. So it'd be nice to maybe even see him at times giving McGregor a bit of a breather, because we know the workload that's on Callum McGregor's massive. But that doesn't really seem to be happening. So only the manager can answer that. I genuinely don't know why that is. But the trio of McGregor, Hatate and Negren just doesn't seem to be really working for me.
It lacks a bit of spark. I think there's no doubt about that. The game against this was an interesting one because it's a quarter final. So give it its respect and its place. But it is an opportunity to freshen things up, to get more minutes for Balikwisha and Tounekti, and potentially mix it up in the midfield. Do you think he'll take the opportunity to do so?
Probably 1 of 3. Probably not 3 of 3, certainly. Probably not 2 of 3. Probably 1 of 3.
It's a lot of numbers there.
3, 1 and 2. But for me, I would rotate out all 3. I think we need to start addressing the Callum McGregor as a number 6 problem. It is screaming at us. So it's better that we do it now than when we come to the tougher games and the tougher times in the season and see if somebody can play in there.
There was a really mad moment in the second half. I think it was 1 each, and Celtic were kind of camped around about their 18-yard line, but done well to win back possession. McGregor gives it to Negren, who just has to clear his lines or
man.
No, Negren wins it and then passes the ball half a yard.
On the edge of the box.
He passes it a yard to McGregor, who's
whilst he's getting, there's bodies coming in.
And Yang was out. Yang or Tounekti was out in the wing saying, just out ball, just get it out.
McGregor, like all of us, wasn't expecting it at all, and the chance comes and goes, and you see McGregor turn around as if to say, what are you playing out here? And I'm all for playing ball and play yourself out of trouble, but time and a place and stuff. So yeah, for different reasons, like we've seen, less so I suppose at the moment in Negren. We know what Callum McGregor can offer. We know on his day what Ray Hatate can offer. But as a 3 just now, it's not quite ticking.
No.
That's your engine. You need to fix that.
We'll need to see what happens. As mentioned earlier on, the full Final Whistle show is available right now on our Patreon. Patreon is where our members can access all of our bonus episodes, including pre and post match for every Celtic game. Check it all out at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. Ahead of the game on Friday, Brendan Rodgers blew it open. Box office Brendan was the headline.
He's back.
blew it open with his various comments. Friday around about 2-3 o'clock. Press conference took place then. Celtic, for whatever reason,
Heavy editing.
held back. I don't think it's been edited, but for whatever reason, they held it back. And eventually, around about 6 o'clock, released the full thing. He came out swinging, didn't he? And you've had mixed emotions on the man over the years, but he fought his corner, didn't he?
You just need to admire his ability to play the occasion. He keeps receipts, does Brendan.
Aye.
He keeps receipts, and he made sure just his wee, oh man, he's
Do you like he's winked to the camera?
oh man, honestly,
I don't know who it is.
honestly, man. But regardless of what you think of Brendan Rodgers, and I know I'm not the only one with mixed emotions on him, I think I'm on record a few weeks ago to say, generally speaking, in Scotland, long goodbyes don't work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing now why, because you've had an opportunist board try to take heat off themselves by laying it all on the exiting manager, who, whatever you think of him, is doing exactly what he said he was going to do,
And saying, deal me in.
and has mentioned, let's get round the table and talk.
I don't know what the opposite of working your ticket is,
Aye.
but this is what he's unworking his ticket.
My
So
biggest
clever.
fear,
Yeah.
my biggest fear was that the board would use Rodgers' situation to not invest in the team.
Mhm.
It appears they've partly done that, but what they've also tried to do is
Load it
kind of
around.
pull the rug from underneath him as well whilst doing that. Whilst all he's been doing is screaming for support. Now, you mentioned there about the Callum McGregor situation, screaming us in the face and that we need a succession plan for him. The areas of the team that need bolstered have been screaming us in the face for many years.
Weary. Yeah.
And so it's just a continuation of that. So Rodgers has done his job by coming out and asking for that help and support. But I also find, again, it taps into the arrogance of the board as a collective, that they know exactly who they're dealing with. They know exactly how he will react in that situation.
And he's an opportunity to react.
And he needs no opportunity to just, he was loving every second of that. You could see he was, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be tetchy, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. He loved every minute of that.
Even the statement came out Saturday night. He's like,
Oh,
right.
he's just, the receipts are all sitting there like, his wee Mallorca Filofax just sitting like, I've got all the notes here, lads, don't worry.
Straight to L.
So, do you know what I mean? So, I'm like, and the fact that he always references talking straight to Dermot and all that, he's like, I'll just go straight to the man. But the fact that we're even at this is wild. Like, you're talking about corporate governance, PR, all these things, but being a professional club. Basically, we've just got everybody having a go at each other and slagging each other off pretty much out wide in the open.
Mm-hmm.
And then we expect to just go and win leagues and progress in Europe and all that. It's a joke.
Yeah,
it's an absolute joke.
It's a crazy old situation, and it's a situation all of Celtic's making.
That's the phrase I would use.
Saying that all the time. James, you do get the impression that with the transfer dealings and the way that the club as a collective acted in terms of not supporting or not fully supporting the manager, and whoever briefed against him in the press on the Friday. We'll get to it in a second.
No names.
But
those kind of actions, they tell you, in my opinion, that where Brendan Rodgers to have given his notice about a week or so ago, they'd have went, that's a shame, Brendan, that's right, doors out that way, see you later. I don't think they'd been that bothered about it. But he's, as you say, come for the king, you better not miss.
Aye.
He has played them back at their own game. Yeah. He is doubling down on his full intention, not only to see out his 3 years, I'll be with you guys forever. Yous are my people, and he'll stay.
Oh, man.
As he can.
Well, what a schoolboy,
And that saying, I'm ready for a deal, doesn't matter if that's true or not. Just saying it, But the fact that, you're saying if he resigned, they would go, what a shame. That's exactly what they wanted, what they thought would happen. But you've got to know that Rodgers, by virtue of when he came back, he said it to me straight to my face, and I believed him. He wouldn't leave, right?
Aye.
He did box himself in a corner there like a lumpet, and he couldn't leave. He could get bulleted, but he couldn't leave. And in fact, he actually said, I might get emptied, but I'll not be resigning.
His rampant ego will not allow him to walk.
Well, it's just the fact that he He did it once before, so he couldn't do it again. But you're also seeing why he did it once before as well.
And this ultimately now is the point.
So
it's because
all around now.
What I wouldn't quite go that far. What happened before, we all know about. Blaming poor Shved mainly for that, but it's probably been amplified even further this time round because whilst other recruitment has been maybe poor or indifferent in certain windows, just that, I mean, this window has just been an absolute unmitigated disaster.
As Asim said, an all-timer.
An all-timer, and he's right.
We signed 11 players in the summer. 5 of them weren't even in the squad against Kilmarnock. All over the place.
This is the one that blows my mind when you're talking about, we got to keep the wages at a certain ratio and blah, blah, blah. Well, don't sign those 5 players for a start. That will help you. Even if they're on 2, 3, 5 grand a week, they all add up to 1 or 2 decent players. It's mismanagement of the squad budget.
Plus also, it's who we've lost. It's not necessarily about who we've brought in, it's about who we've lost. And that's the key part of this. So if you're Brendan Rodgers and you're at Lennox Town and December you would have played against Rangers, or you would have had a game coming up, you would have had Kyogo, you would have had
young boys and all
Ida,
that.
You would have had all these players,
Jota,
all in the squad, because whilst Jota's not been sold, we know he's got a long-term injury, so all those things, just the squad is inherently stronger at that point. You're then expected to go and qualify for the Champions League against, admittedly weak opposition by comparison to others that you could have played, a team that you're expected to beat, but you are going into the game weaker. That's unforgivable at any level.
And with a cloud over the whole...
It's unforgivable.
Squad,
but we've brought it on ourselves, and now we've got a very public spat between manager Mo and the board and Dermot Desmond, and here we are. It's just a good job we're also good-natured lads, because we can have a right good laugh about it, but ultimately it's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah. Let's get to them all, right? So as I said, we just need to be careful what we're saying is all I'm saying. I don't mind you saying.
I'll say.
Anyway, Brendan Rodgers.
Can I take your trousers off a bare arse, Tino? Come and sue me if you want.
So Brendan Rodgers says that the move by someone to sell the story of the Sun or leak the story of the Sun was a cowardly one, and that there should be a full investigation into that. Now, during the press conference, he quite overtly mentions Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, Dermot Desmond, and his good working relationship with all of these guys, but notably doesn't mention the club chairman, Peter Lawwell.
Accusation by omission.
Everyone, yeah, exactly that. That's by omission. Everyone has kind of joined all the dots and said, well, it must have been Peter Lawwell that sold that story. What is your opinion on that, allegedly?
Well, when Rodgers returned, there was the photo of them all laughing and joking.
The double handshake, the crossover one.
Photo of them all kind of laughing and joking at the press conference, but ultimately it comes down to, as men at that level do have, is ego. All comes down to ego. All comes down to who's the big dog. And people with ego can be very, very petty, and I think that's what we've seen.
I mean, James, as I say, he's a smart guy, Brendan Rodgers. He has not named anybody, and when asked, somebody said, "It sounds like you know." He's like, "No."
Oh man,
all of that stuff. Do you think it's as obvious or as plain as what everyone's making out?
I'm going to get us cancelled here. Yes, I do. But in his defence, and in Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay's defence, this is the dysfunction at Celtic. When you've got an exec team and a chairman that are the operational day-to-day, chairman should be probably as a wee bit in the culture of law, lasts long in Celtic. And they're going, okay, well, we run this and we're going to appoint a manager. So we've got a wee short list and it's Enzo Maresca and blah, blah, blah. And then you get some minority shareholder comes over top and goes, bang, Brendan Rodgers. And you've got people in the room, Peter Law, that has history with Brendan Rodgers. That's a recipe for disaster before you even start. So, yes, I'm happy that Rodgers gets appointed, but the way it happened, and it's against the exec team's wishes, that's going to lead to, we were always going to get to here. You might have got out the 3 years and then he would go then, but very unlikely. It could have happened before now, but it was always going to happen at some point that we get to where we are, and it's because of the dysfunction of Dermot Desmond.
And this is a lot of people's opinions. So I'm going to get to the fan group meeting in a moment that I was at last Wednesday, and lots of discussion on the back of that. But what wasn't, and at the moment isn't entirely clear as what the overall objective is. Do people want to see the removal of Dermot Desmond to see the kind of North Star? We must, go for the top man. Or are people happy to see a Michael Nicholson, a Chris Mackay move on? Or is Peter the target? Or is it Brian Wilson and Tom Allison and all these kind of guys? But you're absolutely right. If the top man, if that's what we're calling Dermot Desmond, if he decides, yeah, I know, Mr. Chairman, that you don't go on with this guy, I'm bringing him back anyway.
Make it work.
What do you expect to happen? And you're right, maybe it's a surprise that it's taken this long for all those egos to be in the room and it not to come ahead before.
Especially when you get your son, his daughter's halfway through that. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't help relations.
It's not a great
Not that shouldn't have happened,
So Brendan Rodgers, when pushed, when prompted, feels that there should be an investigation into this. Do you think someone may fall on their sword? There is a suggestion that we won't see any immediate reaction. Dermot Desmond isn't one to kowtow to the wishes of the fans. That's not how he works.
No.
That's just not how he operates. And if the fans all want this, he'll go the other way. That's just, evidence and experience tells you that. But might we see some moves, some quiet exits come AGM time? The AGM's around about November.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Where you go?
I'm just going to say, so maybe in the couple of months just now, Celtic kind of ride it out, knowing that, for example, Peter Lawwell might say, I'm going to take the hit for this one. I'm going to make life easier for all you guys on the board. I'll step aside. Do you think something like that might happen?
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. I'd say the hits keep on coming for the board. That the guy that didn't sign before the Champions League turns out he's a bit of a superstar and he would have got you through, right?
Tounekti, right? Favours, yeah.
They're sitting going, I hope this guy's murder, man. And he's no. They're going to try and, in the most ridiculous way, make the books look as not good as they are.
So just very quickly, the books are usually...
Well, staying legal, of course.
They're usually due out around about now, mid-September. The suggestions are that'll be slowballed a wee bit. So rather than get them around about now or this week...
So I think it needs to be minimum 6 weeks before the AGM.
So maybe a couple of weeks down the track.
In October and stuff. So, but that in itself...
That cash at bank balance is just
ridiculous.
It's
like, I've got 140 million in the bank, I think it's looking like 150 million revenue and something like 100 million pound in the bank if you just do like a fag packet mask and thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that that's an embarrassment is ridiculous.
We've had to sneak out our figures for the last couple of years.
They've been doing from 11 o'clock.
We're embarrassed of our
those. It's about like the statement.
Yeah.
So there's that coming along. If you talking about the North Star, right? So just take money off the table. Say money's no object. What you do is, well, give me 500 million. I'll give it to Dermot Desmond. I'll get you shares, right? That's probably, if you asked most of the fans of that mean last Wednesday, if money was no object, you had the means, what would you do? They'd buy out Dermot Desmond, because that's where it comes from.
You're cutting off its source there, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're
right.
dealing with the overarching problem, and then you can deal with it.
And then you can come in and say, right, okay, let's build a bit of cohesion within the shareholding, the cap table, and say, let's appoint professionally experienced executives that know how to run football teams, and and on you go. Money is an object, so it remains to be seen, what comes of that. David Lowe on Axon with Paul John was talking about everything's for sale. So there's a number to be had.
Yeah.
However, Desmond might say not for sale. Everything's for sale.
David said it in this room on that very chair. Every man has his price. On your chair, he was sitting there. Every man has his price, and it's we're not for sale, we're not for sale, we're not for sale. How much?
Aye.
Okay, we're for sale now.
Yeah.
That's just the way the world works.
So then on to your, sacrificial lamb stuff, right? A bit like, we talked about this last week, a bit like Bart Law. He was given a Shannon brief, as much as nepotistically he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place. If you're appointed nepotistically, you need to be 30-40% better than the guy that could have got your job. Otherwise, you're on hiding nothing. And he wasn't hiding nothing anyway. So, bulleting the good doctor, that's not going to solve anything. I don't even really think you're going to change anything immediately by changing Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay, although I think their positions are fairly untenable.
On you go.
You've mentioned it before. The issue is the budget versus the profile that we're looking for. Ultimately, that from a recruitment perspective, regardless of the people who are involved, there's the budget that we put forward versus the profile of player and market that we want to shop in versus who then signs it off and the negotiation that comes after that. So by the time you have identified somebody like Tounekti, you're then haggling with yourself over how much you're willing to spend on him, whilst negotiating with the team what your actual bid. It's just so inefficient. Instead of it just being, we have identified this player.
Yeah.
We think he's roughly this worth. Hammarby have asked for this. Right. We see a resale value on him, so right, €5 million. We need him in. We'll pay him. No, I might be massively oversimplifying that, but supply and demand is the name of the game. You're only going out to buy someone because you need them or you want them. So pay the money that's been asked.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, we're always trying to be smart. We nearly lost the Bernardo deal. I mean, remember how long the Bernardo deal dragged on?
Yeah.
And we thought we were so clever because we would have. He was worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and pay him. Ida as well. If we'd done the deal quickly, we would have saved money. The problem runs from through so many facets, should I say, of the recruitment and the board, because it's a dual responsibility. You know, the budgets are set by them. Ultimately, it'll be Desmond, I believe, that will set the budget
He'll sign off the budget
that's being put towards player recruitment. But in January, if he's went, all right, we've got the 10 million for Kyogo, but we've just spent 9 million in the summer. He's only getting another striker. That, you know, we're going on about the good doctor. We're going on about Congerton. We're going on about Hammond. We're going on about Rodgers. We're going on about Nicholson. If ultimately somebody with the money sitting going, no.
Yeah.
That's a bigger problem than then who's identifying the players, because if you actually look at it over the piece, why does our player model work so well? We're bringing in good players and making them better. Excellent. We do find them. We do actually find them. We just actually need to do it more regularly and more often to continually improve the squad, rather than have peaks and troughs where we have these scenarios where every 5 years we're kind of needing to go through effectively what's a rebuild. It should be continual reinvestment.
So Matt makes a point there that we do find the players, generally speaking. You know, of course there's been some duds, but there's been some real gems that have come through Celtic in the last 5, 10, 15 years. But there is no doubt, as discussed there are flaws in our signing process, whatever that may be. And it feels like we have a couple of negotiations within signing a player. And the big issue is the internal negotiation, where we're falling out with each other. Where one guy's saying we should pay 5 for this guy from Hammarby, let's just pay 2 or 3. Or Jacob Broom being the better example of Go Ahead Eagles. They want 5 or 6. We're like 2.5, blah, blah, blah. We probably have that haggle internally and then go, right, go at 2 and see what they say. Oh, they've told us to off, right, okay. Go at 2.5, all that kind of stuff. And then we've come back and forward.
Bleep machine.
And then eventually you don't get these guys. And you've fallen out with yourself. You've pissed off your recruitment team. At the moment, it's Paul Tisdale. Before, it was Mark Lowell and all these guys.
Tino's dropping bombs left, right, and centre.
And then you've earmuffs, kids.
No.
And then ultimately what you get for all your internal wrangling is no Jacob Broom.
Yeah.
So we seem to have got lucky that Broom's off the table and you land on Tounekti, who might be a better player than Broom, you know, and we're all excited about him.
McGree, O'Reilly, you know.
But it is all that. So you can talk about something. I'll say that again. Some things happen by pure design, some by pure luck, and Celtic ride both those horses at any given transfer window.
Yeah. I mean, if you take it back to, so I was out with a pal Martin O'Neill on Friday for a couple of pints, and we get
Not
talking.
that Martin O'Neill.
Well,
that's your pal. It's not his pal.
He says he is. He is his pal as well. But we were talking about Ange comes in and bang, bang, bang. There's all these players just flying in the door, and they're all hitting the ground running. It was like, you know, let's just keep doing that kind of thing. That wasn't really scouting and negotiation and you know brilliant deal work. It was network. It was Vince Lombardi, Ange's agent. Is that the guy?
Is it Vince Lombardi?
Lombardi anyway, is it?
It was Vince Lombardi, no the
Frank Trimbley.
It was Vince Lombardi, no the coach of the American football. American football.
Frank Trimbley.
Is that not the name of the trophy you won for the Super Bowl?
That's correct. We are fully on the pulse when it comes to football and agents and signing. But it's not Vince Lombardi, it's Frank Trimbley.
Aye, so Frank Trimbley
is
Ange's agent, right? So he's basically lining up Ange for Celtic. And before Ange is even in the door, Ange is saying, right, it's a bit of a shit show in there. We're going to have to get some players. Vince, Frank. He's like, don't worry, I've got you. I've got Kyogo, I've got Starfelt, I've got Carl Vickers, I've got Jota, I've got Hatate, I've got blah, blah, blah. You're not going to get him till January, but and it's the network that was done. So when Celtic are going out to make these deals a lot, all right, guys, at Celtic, we'd like to buy a player instead of going.
Do you know what? Maybe the problem is maybe we're phoning Vince and we should be getting Frank.
Phone the right man. But the danger now is we've pissed so many people off.
Yeah,
now nobody's got what to deal with because you're like, here's the guys that just want to pay £2.5 million for an £8 million player.
Exactly.
No, beat it.
So that is a reason why I think the positions of the top execs are untenable, because they put us in that blacklist position. So you need to be able to approach teams and say, don't worry guys, new Broom in town, here's how we're doing business. But we need to be better connected and networked. The deals are done 3, 6, 9, 12 months before.
I know.
And you're saying, See, instead of messing about with Go Ahead Eagles and stuff, you just say to the agent, what's the real deal in there? And they'll take 4.
And even
you know?
we've now been left in, and what probably annoys me even more than that is the players promised moves who have made it clear, who have served their time with us and done well for us,
and
letting the club know with plenty of time that they're going to go, and maybe have something lined up, spoke to the manager about it, and they're still here. Specifically Dyson Maeda.
Yeah.
Into the season of his life, scored the goals. We know what the model is.
Turned up for you when you didn't replace Kyogo.
Aye, and so even then we have spat in the face of our own model.
We've broken our own model there.
Our own model. So not only are we reinvesting at the top end,
I don't think we have a model. I think we're just lucky.
Well, generally speaking, it has to be this kind of loop thing where it's you sign the guy for a couple of million. He stays for 2.5 years. He plays Champions League football. He does his job. He stars for you at European football and domestically, and he gets his move. You don't stand in his way. We've stood in Dyson Maeda's way. So we've got a loose model that works pretty well. You know, Matt O'Reilly's a great example of it as well. But we've broken our own model, and that's just a dysfunction or a sign of the dysfunction at the club right now. I tell you what we'll do. Let me move on to that fan group meeting. Obviously a very important thing at this moment in time. So it was last Wednesday, 10th of September at Gracie's, and it was basically a meeting of as many as possible of the 420 plus signatories for that open letter that went out a couple of weeks ago now. And it was basically finding the mood in the camp and looking at different ways to move forward. And very generally speaking, and you'll have heard different reports as well, there was a real feeling by and large of unity in the room. In Celtic or anything emotive, there's going to be different opinions, but generally speaking, most were on the same page. There was a bit of disagreement on how to protest. Not everybody was on board with the 12-minute protest on Sunday, for example, but most people were, show of hands and all that stuff. But I do think maybe there's a lack of clarity, at least at this stage, on what the end goal is. We spoke about the North Star, but what is the end goal? And I'd like to just canvass the opinion of you two guys just now in terms of, do you want to see heads roll, right? Does Michael Nicholson have to go? Does Peter Lawwell have to go? Does it have to be Dermot Desmond? He's a big problem. Or if Celtic address some other issues internally, these guys can stay if we do X, Y, Z moving forward. You know, there's lots on the table, and I think it's really important as a fan base to say, yes, we're protesting, and here's what we're protesting for, you know, in 1 or 2 lines, you know, something succinct. What's your general feel just now?
I mean, I think Celtic as an operation need fresh leadership for a start. And, you know, we talk about the Desmond. I've said my piece on Desmond and how I think that could be done or not done, as the case may be. But there's fresh leadership required. I don't mean this in a if it were to happen thing or it should happen thing, but if the exec board and the heads of department at Celtic went up against the market for their jobs, would they keep their jobs? Are they the best people in those positions? I know 1 or 2 that definitely are, and they're top quality, and Celtic are lucky to have them, but I know a lot that are not. So how would they feel if they went up against people in their peer group, of their experience, to do the job they do? Could they win their job against the market? I don't know if they do. So that's always going to be a problem operationally if you don't have the best in place. And by the way, be open to saying, well, you're not the best at the moment, we're going to make you the best. Yeah. Show ambition and show attitude to be the best. But that comes from fresh leadership from Don Mackay.
Don Mackay. Well, I was just going to talk about Don Mackay. Don Mackay, his big message that he floated in on was best in class. Yeah. He said it several times in his opening press conference, and best in class can apply in all areas of the business. There's a kind of jokey, flippant thing, but spelling Ian Acho's name wrong on his shirt yesterday, I know it's just somebody's made a mistake, and we can all make mistakes, but it's no great.
But, right, that's not my job, right? But see, if it was my job, I'd go, that's not a name I come across all the time. I'm just going to check.
Do you not know Peter Ian Acho if he's the bride?
It's Frankie Nacho. I was like, oh, I've got that wrong. There's the extra A. Send.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on that because somebody's made a mistake, and that's not the
But it is indicative.
But there are mistakes get made across the board, and to be best in class, it kind of has to go across all facets of your business. Best in class at Celtic can be the staff you hire at the superstore. It can be your board members. It can be absolutely your players and your coaches and all areas of the business. And I suppose at the moment, I don't ever feel comfortable talking about wanting people to lose their job.
I'm not saying that.
It just doesn't sit well with me. But in the way you've put it is, if someone's not the best at their job, can we make them the best at their job? And if not, then you need to look at options. I just want to, before I get your own opinion, Miff, on it, all right, let's go.
No, just like,
well, I tell you what I was going to do. I was going to read out, the open letter had 7 points, 7 key questions to be addressed. And I really do think the club, for the most part, are in full control of addressing these issues. And I actually think they could have put out some of these fires very quickly and very easily with a strong communication, a strong media piece. Let's hear your own take, and then I'll read out the 7 points.
No, just because I do worry. The longer you stay away from me, the things go to my head. So that was the main reason. But also, it reminds me of the point I was going to make, and it references a point I made earlier. The club could very easily get ahead of this. It's not difficult.
No,
It's
I
not
think there's
difficult.
Easy fixes.
It's
really.
not difficult. All they have to do is talk to us. So if I felt for 1 minute that the board, not even shown contrition, just had the self-awareness to go,
Got that wrong.
right, tell you what, see when we look back at that window, we did go into that qualifier light. We've not gave the team the best chance.
Yep.
However, the structural change that so many of you have been crying out for is going to be this.
It's on the way.
Right? And this is the plan. Give us the time, we'll get back to you. I think we'd all go, right, okay,
Buy them
something.
time.
That's something.
Mm-hmm.
All the evidence we have, and I'll go back to that statement, because the statement offends me as a fan, because it just shows that they think we know absolutely nothing about football and how football clubs run. The statement shows the board, whoever that may be, that's signing that off and putting that content out, will not do that. So we
they wouldn't have done. They might have to now.
well, so this is
Do
where
you
we're
only
at.
do it when you have to, when you're paying
This is where we're at.
It doesn't matter if you get there.
The evidence,
forced into it by the fans.
the evidence would suggest. You mentioned earlier, Dermot doesn't kowtow. The evidence in front of us would suggest what we are protesting for, what we are demanding, what we are unifying for as a fan base from the board is very unlikely to come in the form of direct communication from them to address what we see as the issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to come. They thought the statement was that.
Wow.
Right? So there's your chasm, there's your disconnect. What's the only way to solve that is a change? Will there be a few sacrificial lambs in there? Possibly. But it all comes back to the same point. You could have a best-in-class structure, head of recruitment, director of football operations. If the money man at the top of that tree doesn't sign off the budget for all the brilliant players that you've identified and doesn't negotiate properly to bring in those players, it's not worth a toss.
The whole thing falls down.
But we do end up spending the money just in the wrong places.
The process and the structure and the hierarchy, it doesn't work. The interesting thing is, and let me read out these 7 key questions from the open letter, because actually not one of the questions is spend more money on players and do this, that, and the next thing, the transfer window. It's easier solutions than that. It's things that actually the exec absolutely can control, and it ultimately comes down to communication. I'll rattle through these 7 here, but question number 1, what is the club's long-term football and strategy, and when and how will this be communicated to supporters? Easy done. Why has there been no investment in critical positions despite repeated pleas from the manager, obvious weaknesses in the squad and calls from supporters? Number 3, what accountability measures are in place for repeated failures in transfer dealings? And number 4, how do you intend to modernise the club's structure to compete in Europe? And why are we consistently unprepared for qualification stages? I'm going to pause there, right? That's 4 out of the 7. You can answer all 4 of them today, tonight, on Celtic TV if you want to, or on Sky Sports or whatever. If someone, but it has to be Michael Nicholson actually, if the main man, the CEO, comes out and says, here's the club's long-term football and strategy, here's why we didn't invest as we should have in the summer window, we got it wrong, here's why we got it wrong, but we'll do better next time. The accountability is somebody might go or whatever. And number 4, how do you intend to modernise? We'll do X, Y, Z in the next 3, 5, 7 years. It's easy done.
If you have the free rein from Desmond to do so,
You should have free rein
and
over
if you
that.
have the competence to do so,
Mhm.
and if you yourself have the will to do so, and I don't know if all 3 of those exist.
Even the belief to do so, the belief to go and say, right, we've got it wrong, but we know how we can fix it.
Maybe they don't know.
But those questions are entirely reasonable for fans of a football team
That's
to ask.
nobody's.
Take Celtic away from it.
Yeah.
Every football fan who buys a season ticket, goes to games, even if you just buy your Sky subscription and sit and watch in the house, you would want to know, right, what's my team going to do?
The reason those questions are so easy to answer is we're loaded. right? See if your club's skint, you go, I would like to have all 4 of those, but do you know what, we're skint, you go, well, let's go on the journey and try and generate a bit of revenue, but we are loaded.
See if to an extent, and I'm not being flippant, and obviously some of the questions would change slightly, see if this were Pollock Juniors or something, and this was like a couple of hundred fans that said, listen, we're not happy the way the club's been run, here's some questions. Any football fan should be allowed to ask those questions of their club and get a reasonable response. So far, and as you say, maybe the statement was the best attempt at it, so far that these 7 questions haven't even been responded to or acknowledged by the club.
We without those questions, I'm not sure what came first. Was it the statement or those key questions?
This open letter came out first.
That's from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So that just shows you the sentiment from the board to us. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's that vibe.
They didn't take that
feeling
to the statement.
They're just like, where you go.
There was 1,000+ words in that statement, and not one section has covered any of these points. I'm going to continue. So points 1 to 4, we're not been flipping, we're not been jokey. Those 4 are very easily addressed by the club through in-house media or otherwise. Question number 5, when will supporters receive the results of the fan survey conducted over a year ago, and why have these not yet been released despite being in the club's possession for several months? There is something about this.
This is a whopper, man.
Right? There was 50,000 responses to the survey, but they had an agency dealing with it who couldn't deal with it, and something got muddled up, and they've now moved to a new agency, and there's been a delay. But however long it takes, see if it's going to be next April, just tell us it's going to be next April. It's the communication thing. This is where it all falls down. The 6th point is, why have the results of the Fairhurst inquiry not been made public, and what action will the club take to protect supporters from unlawful and disproportionate policing in the future? This was relating to the game against Rangers on March the 16th, where fans, predominantly Green Brigade, I think, were kettled as such outside the supporters club at London Road with no great reason. They were all kind of forced to show ID.
And it was dangerous.
Nobody was allowed to get water breaks and all these toilet breaks or anything like that. The club have appointed an independent body, Fairhurst, to carry out an inquiry. You're approaching, tomorrow will be 6 months since that game, and there's no response to that. Again, see if they say, we need to take time, it's going to take up to 8 months or 10 months or 12 months.
Then you know.
Communicate, right? Last point, why does the club continue to resist working with supporters to improve matchday atmosphere, supporter experience and consultation on key issues such as ticket pricing and distribution? Now, the club may or may not decide to engage, and there's chat about a fan advisory board and a democratic fan board, which is all part of this meeting from last week. The club either want to engage or they don't, and whatever they decide, they need to just tell us. See if they say, thanks for your input, our supporters are so important to us, we'll continue to speak to the Celtic Supporters Association and the affiliation and all that stuff, but that'll be that. People wouldn't be happy, but at least they'd know. Or they might say, do you know what, we want a more open dialogue with our supporters, let's work cohesively to create something which would be far better received. But whatever they're doing, they just need to tell us. And I know I'm grating a wee bit here, but all those 7 points, communication deals with all of them.
Yeah.
And that's before we've even spoken about transfer windows and underhand dealings with the Sun and all these things. This is an open letter. And actually, it was an open goal for Celtic to reply, do you know what? Here's our 7-point reply to that. Great stuff. There it is in paper. And Michael will be speaking to Sky Sports in a few days' time to give you it, straight from the horse's mouth.
But that's, Rots for the head down and all that stuff. At least with Peter Law, you did get the now and again, sermon from the mount kind of thing. He would come out and, because he quite enjoyed that side of things. I think Michael clearly doesn't. But all these things are communication issues from a CEO that doesn't communicate full stop. So I don't think that changes unless Michael wants to change. And if it's not his forte, then, just put your paws up on that.
The Dubai apology in the Gantt shot, that will live long in the memory.
One for the ages.
Long in the memory.
But I just think there's things in the Celtic world which are difficult and tricky and political, and they've tied themselves in knots with Palestine and all those sorts of things. These ones, I think these 7, almost to a question, very doable. Very doable. And there's bigger issues that you can deal with. But do you know what? See, if you deal with the 7 right, you maybe win back a bit of goodwill, and it maybe makes questions 8, 9 and 10 a bit easier because there's a bit of trust there. We've just messed that one up dramatically, in my opinion. Just to update in terms of what's next. So I believe there is a meeting taking place tonight, Monday 15th of September, to establish a formation of a steering group. There was a number of bodies in the room on Wednesday who want to be part of that. And I think there will then be a further update as to how that's going to look moving forward. But it is very hard. I'll say it again, and I said it earlier on, that in Celtic world, where we're all so invested emotionally, and when emotion comes into play, you don't think rationally. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. And I think it is very hard to find just agreement on what the target is. Some people want heads to roll, absolutely, and I understand that. Some people just want processes to change and the way we operate to change, but it's such a complex thing all round.
Yeah, it is, but that's, you're asking for a North Star, and that's why it's so important, because you can, bat away a lot of stuff and just say, is that really serving our one true purpose? And that's why it's got to be narrowed down to as close to one true purpose as you can get it, because anything that comes up in a meeting, you go, is that related to or moving towards the one true purpose? If it's not, it's an important point you've got there, but that's not for this forum. Let's put that in the back burner. Let's get to where we need to get to, and then we can start to do the stuff that comes after. I think that has to be the overriding message of unity, and for all fans and fan media that's involved in this, anyone who's involved in this, just think unity and bigger picture. And if protesting isn't for you, that's absolutely fine as well. Bumped into my neighbour on Sunday heading to the game, and he's like, oh, I don't care. At the end of that, I just sit down and I watch a game, and that's absolutely fine. You're just as much a Celtic fan as the next guy, and those guys have got to be allowed to have their place as well. But it's that unity is the one thing that I want to see. But to engender that unity, you have to have the North Star.
100% though, and just to reiterate, anyone choosing to protest or not, all is absolutely fine. It's a very individual, a very personal choice, when it comes to Celtic and stuff like that. And a fair amount of folk didn't do the 12-minute thing at Kilmarnock. I think around about a third went in, maybe a bit less than that. And it's all absolutely fine. Everyone's got the right to make their own choice.
A third went in before kick-off.
Yeah, and they've all got the right to make their choice with regards to that. What we'll do, so we're kind of fairly close to things just now. We're getting kept up to speed in terms of the different actions through the collective fans' voice, and a few WhatsApp groups and all sorts of stuff going on. So we'll do our very best to update across the socials and on our Patreon page as and when we've got it. We do a daily podcast there called The Daily, where every morning I give a brief Celtic update, and I'll do my very best to bring those updates with news as and when we have it regarding this hot topic, Miff, as it continues on. Last point, the Gers, Miff, they've been spotted cold water swimming up at Loch Lomond. Have you seen this?
No.
So
Conic Hill.
It was confirmed just a couple confirmed it. The news broke and there's pictures and stuff. Apparently, as a team building exercise, Russell Martin's taken them for a cold water dip in Loch Lomond. Your thoughts on that?
I wasn't aware of that. Not knowing about a wee cold water dip, mind you, but
not just for a couple of years now.
I think their problems seem to be running a bit deeper. Dare I say, yet again, they've brought in a new manager and they're back at that. Although this stage in their particular process seems to be going a lot worse than previous managers have come in and had some sort of bounce for a number of weeks. Russell Martin has absolutely not had that benefit, and they look a distinctly unhappy camp. He's pretty much tried to marginalise Tavernier since he's went in there, and now seems to be relying on to go and dig him out a hole. Rascan's just kind of weaseling about doing his thing. And then a lot of their signings were League One players last season.
Risky.
You're kind of needing them to come in and go and hit the ground running, and it doesn't look like they're of suitable ability to do so. So they seem to have got themselves into a massive mess. I can't see Martin lasting for another couple of weeks. I was of the opinion that I thought he would play a certain style of football with them that the Rangers fans would be happy with, but actually it just seems to have been one disaster after another since he's went in there. They'd actually played a couple of qualifiers before they played league games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
won a couple of qualifiers.
They got fairly lucky in the draw.
Seemed to be a bit of momentum building, and then just I
don't generally watch too much of them. I only caught the last 85 minutes of their game on Saturday, for example.
The full shooting match.
They're all at sea, and it's just it's strange to watch. I think they've won one out of the last 8, and it was Alloa.
Russell Martin's won 2 of his last 25.
Oof, that might kind of do it, because they've won 3 games. They beat Pilsen and they beat Panathinaikos and Alloa.
This must be league games.
So so there's mad stuff going on there.
Their next league game is a 6-pointer against 11th placed Livy at Albion Vale. A
relegation battle.
Yeah.
And they've got Hibs in the Cup on Saturday night, I believe. So
Hibs flying.
But a wee dip in Loch Lomond, you'll be good to go, lads, as you were. James, been a busy show for various reasons. Lots still going on in Celtic world, but your own final comments for the week.
Yeah, first things first, yesterday, just good to get international break out the way, back to football, because that's, at the end of the day, what we're...
Is there an international break in another 2 weeks or something?
Is that right?
There's another one in October, yeah.
Well, to the board, remember. Learn your lessons. Or unless you've got something good to say, come out and say it. If you're nothing good to say nothing at all. So yeah, just good to get down there and see the game yesterday. And you know, Miff's point last week was very valid, as much as like a wee boycott and stuff like that. This team really needs your support because there's been so much noise. So it was great that they got that.
And just to reiterate the point that someone made, I seen it online last night, it really stresses the point where you can do a late arrival if you want. Don't leave early, because this team needs your support. Any team needs your support, getting into the closing stages of a game.
Yeah. So it's just that, and hopefully, it won't be an immediate process, but hopefully in the kind of coming weeks, obviously AGM's, a bit of an agitation point. There might be something can be done between now and then that we start to hear about things, about change. If you are going to make changes, then you're not going to roll through your AGM. If it rolls through the AGM and no change, then dig in, we're in for the haul.
Yeah. Miff, final word goes to you.
Yeah, again, a couple of weeks break, but why do we do this? Why do we go to the games? It's to go and support the team, enjoy a last minute winner, catch up with your mates, whether you're sitting with them on the bus, driving to the game, all those things. So that's back. I think when that's back, you generally feel better about things. It's been so interrupted with some league games, some League Cup games, some qualifiers. We now know where we stand in terms of what competition we're in and what our playing squad is as well. So we just concentrate on that. And there is some freshness and excitement in there. The emergence of Donovan as well as Tounekti as well. In Iheanacho as well. I'm really, really hopeful that he's a bit of a maverick, kind of Eddie-esque in that sense, where he'll be able to make things happen in tight spaces. Hopefully he gets on a wee run, and then I think we really could see the best of him. So fingers crossed. Yeah, a bit of positivity back, because quite simply the players are out in the park, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, but interesting times, and let's see what happens in the coming weeks. So that's all on this latest episode of Celtic Exchange Weekly. Thanks to Miff and James, but most importantly, thanks to you for continuing to back us here on Celtic Exchange. We'll be back later in the week on our new Patreon channel to bring you the Partick Thistle countdown to kick off on Friday, and then again after the final whistle on Sunday. And don't forget, you can also hear from us every weekday morning on The Daily. Again, that's available exclusively on Patreon. And if you're not yet a member, check it all out at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. But in the meantime, have a brilliant week. We'll see you all again for the next one.